A natural forest rehabilitation project on the degraded land at Mainaro and Kibale Conservation Area, which began in the early 1990s, has become a significant achievement worth celebrating. After 30 years, the restored forest stands as a living example of efforts to combat climate change, support biodiversity, and improve human livelihoods. Charles Tumwesije, UWA Commissioner, Field Operations, states that the project is a source of pride, not only for UWA, but for Uganda as a whole.
My name is Charles Tumwesije, the Commissioner of Field Operations at the Uganda Wildlife Authority. I also coordinate the UWA FIRST project, or the High Forest Restoration Project, that has been taking place in Kibale since 1994. This project has been able to restore up to 10,000 hectares of forest. It was initially degraded area with elephant grass, with banana plantations and other exotic plant species as a result of human settlement. Now, we have been able to restore this into a fully-fledged forest. The areas that were restored first are now, you can't believe it is a full-blown forest. The other thing that we can be proud of is that the Kibale Forest Restoration, or Forest Restoration Project, is the only one of its kind in Uganda, where we can proudly say that the government has been able to restore a formerly degraded area into a forest, has been able to avert the effects of desertification, climate change, because the area now receives a lot of rainfall because of the forest, and the climate around Kibale is unique, it's different, and so that is something that we have not seen happening elsewhere in this country. And this forest is actually now a natural forest, not not a forest of indigenous trees, but of natural trees. The project has been able to employ, at its peak, I think the project was employing up to 1,000 local communities to support the restoration activities. That is the planting, the tending of the trees to ensure that they reach maturity, the protection against fire. So all those activities required that we employ people, and because we are working in different compartments, there are compartments that were done in the 90s, in the early 2000s, and so there are at different intervals we had so many communities working in the project that at one time we had over 1,000 people working. These are the local communities getting jobs to work in the project. But also the project has been able to impart forest management activities within the communities. The communities now are able to raise seedlings and then they sell. So initially, when the project started, the project was raising its own seedlings by collecting wildlings and then have put them in a nursery, grow them, and then transplant them into the forest. So with training, with time, the communities were allowed to pick these wildlings from the forest, be able to establish their nursery gardens and sell to the project. So that is another benefit, but also establish their own woodlots, their own forests around Kibale. So the communities now are able to, they have those skills that they have developed that we are proud of. And then the other aspect, I think, is tourism, because as a result of this restoration, we've seen wildlife utilizing this restored area. There are chimps now, there are elephants, and people have built lodges, communities have built lodges around to attract the tourists who are coming to see this wildlife. And we also have plans to habituate a group of chimpanzees in that restoration area, which will be another source of income to UWA, but also to the communities. Now, the other thing that we are proud of is that when this project started, the main focus was really restoration. Plant trees, ensure that they grow and create a forest. Now with time, we went into what we call carbon markets. So as a result of planting trees, indigenous trees, these trees absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and fix it into carbon. So we are able to monitor how much carbon we have fixed, and we can now go into the market.
Walter Van, one of the directors of FACE, explains that the degraded section of the forest required assistance to recover properly due to numerous obstacles that were hindering its regrowth.
We are standing here in a forest which was grassland. So FACE and UA partnered to restore this degraded part of the national park, which was encroached in the even before around the 70s and before that time. The forest did not restore by itself because there were all these grasses, and these grasses they were suffocating any trees that were coming up. They were competing with the normal forest vegetation. And at the same time, those grasses are very susceptible to fires. So occasionally fire would enter the grasslands and then burn everything down. Even all those small seedlings that might have been there would disappear, and then the only thing which would regenerate were these grasses. So there was a clear need to do active restoration in this site to protect the area from recurring fires, and to really support those young trees to grow up to a stage that they can manage themselves and outcompete the grasslands.
The carbon credit market at Kibale National Park is certified and has accumulated over 1.5 million tons of carbon. Between March and April this year, another carbon monitoring exercise was conducted, carried out scientifically, as Senior Warden Forestry, Richard Chigenyi, takes us through.
When the trees absorbs carbon dioxide, it stores it in the trunk. Now that trunk is what we come in to measure. So we have a total of 281 plots that we do measure. And in those 281 plots, just one plot, we measure 16 mini sub-plots. And one of the sub-plots is always a reference plot that we have to look for trees which are from 5 centimeters and above. Now, our tree here is 48.9 centimeters. So for the last 30 years, this is what it has attained. So after that, we give him the size of the crown. This is where our tree crown stops. So crown size is 5 meters. Then you take the height. It tells you that it is 22.1.
The success story at Mainaro has paved way for a similar initiative in Katungulu, which is also within Kibale.
So following the successful implementation and restoration of over 10,000 hectares in what we call a restoration area now, we were able to realize that we can facilitate forest regeneration in other areas as opposed to leaving the forest to regenerate naturally. And so Katungu is another part in Kibale National Park, which historically had some forest patches, forest areas, but over time, these, because of fires, because of other factors, developed a lot of grassland patches. Grasslands are good, yes, and we need them, but then when the forest turns into a grassland, sometimes the ecosystem changes. So using the experience from the minor restoration area, we thought that we could actually facilitate, let me call it facilitating quick restoration of Katungu. And so we have expanded now into a new restoration area and a new arrangement, a new agreement, partnership agreement, but also working along the same lines. So it will support the restoration, the planting, the tending, the protection against the fire, but also we will be able to generate carbon credits that we are able to sell and make money to support the park management and community development activities. So this is a new project we are now setting up. We are establishing nurseries, we are establishing an office, a store, working on the roads to access the area. So it is really things we've started this year, and we hope that for the next 7-10 years we'll also be working on that area.
However, not all efforts have been successful. A comparable project attempted in Mount Elgon Conservation Area faced challenges.
In other areas, we've tried in Mount Elgon to do a similar project, and I can say that we were not very successful. First, the same company, the same program was working with us in Mount Elgon. Actually, they started at the same time, but because of the conflicts we have had with the communities around Mount Elgon are not so responsive, they are not so receptive. The trees that were planted, the same communities cut them down. There are those conflicts over the boundary. And so we have not been successful in Mount Elgon, but we have been very successful with Kibale, and we are very proud with the project.
John Justice Tibesugwa, Chief Warden, Kibale Conservation Area, notes that the forest progress is monitored ecologically.
So what now remains is to ensure that this forest that we have since established in the last 30 years is taken care of very well through ensuring that fires are kept away, through regular monitoring, through data collection, and we are also looking at a possibility of starting tourism. Now, one of the things which we are doing in the restored area is regularly monitoring the butterflies in the area. We've just done a large mammal census for all mammals generally in the national park, and we are about to analyze the data and have the results are shared. So butterflies is also a very, very important taxa that we are monitoring, because it gives a reflection of how well the ecosystem of the national park is.
After 33 years of this project, more than 3 million indigenous trees have been planted, creating a flourishing carbon sink forest that has enabled to curb down the effects of climate change. A projection of 180,000 tons of carbon is expected after this exercise. I'm Diana Chibuka Nakaima, right here at Kibale National Park.